What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Geeks and Company. Yes, and another after show of what's really becoming my favorite segment on the channel, the after show. That's right. We're talking Star Wars: The Mandalorian, season 3, episode. I think we said episode 7. The Spies. Mr. Jeff, aka
Hi.
Messiah Complex Cosplay. How
It's
you doing
me.
today, bud?
Oh, I'm wonderful. So good. Don't let the bags fool you. I just had to get on here and talk about the Mandalorian with my buddy JS because this week's episode is a banger.
Yeah, this was my favorite episode of The Mandalorian, barring the final episode of season 2.
Yeah, which you can't.
Which I don't think you can top.
No. The greatest cameo on television ever. Yeah. So what are you gonna do? Right?
But this was absolutely mental.
Yeah.
And
everything.
You know what? Okay, let's get some stuff out of the way first, folks. If you haven't seen the episode, go watch it. There will be spoilers. Spoiler warning. There's gonna be spoilers. We're gonna talk details. Because the episode starts with a very big spoiler. But that being said, folks, if you haven't subscribed to the channel, make sure you do.
What are you doing?
What are you doing? It's completely free. Really helps us out. And if you click the notification bell, it'll make sure you never miss anytime we upload a video or go live for a podcast. So click the subscribe button, click the notification bell. Hey, while you're at it, click the like button. It really lets us know that you like the show. And it propagates it through the YouTube verse. So it's very appreciated for you to take a second and do all that for us. Right off the bat, this episode started with a bang.
It did. Very, very clear nod to Blade Runner. Clearly.
Oh, yeah.
Down in the bed. There's even a musical key tone at one point that it's like the one sound from Blade Runner as Kane, I believe the character name is walking through the bowels of Coruscant. Maybe the little less shiny, polished area of Coruscant. Very cool with all the neon Arabesh writing and shit.
Before we get to the spoiler,
yes,
that scene where Kane is walking through Coruscant was very, very reminiscent of that CG animatics that was released from Lucasfilm years ago about the TV show they wanted to make. They wanted to make a Star Wars underworld show.
I gotcha.
And the visuals were, I mean, it felt like they took this right out of that cinematic that they had created. It
very
was
cool looking.
Very cool.
If you're into like the tech noir, cyberpunk style vibe, that whole aesthetic that Blade Runner started, this opening scene. Yeah. And then we get, I think, like kind of a cool Easter egg. Before the big reveal, we actually get an Imperial probe droid right out of Empire Strikes Back. Makes the same sound, has the same shape. Very, very cool.
Well, I had a question right off the bat, and it's like, well, if the Empire is gone, how are there Imperial droids flying around Coruscant undetected?
Well, we learn later in this episode that the Empire, in fact, is not gone.
It's not gone.
Not gone at all.
After scanning Kane and identifying Kane as TK-2755, I think.
Something along those lines.
Who does the droid project?
Let's Moff Gideon. Of course, Giancarlo Esposito back finally on this season of they've been teasing him literally the entire season so far. And by the way, let's just, I guess, spoiler alert. Kane's working for Moff Gideon, just in case you had no idea that was, if you didn't see that coming, that's the most telegraphed heel turn in history. Moff Gideon shows up and is on a holo and like report. And she says, the Mandalorians are working together. And Din's like, nah, Moff Gideon's like, nah, that's not cool. I'll take care of that. And then you get and then he literally so they flip the narrative. They flip the scene to show him wherever he is and looks like he's in a cave or whatever on the other side of the holo. And then he walks into a room.
Do you know where I think he is?
Where?
I think he's in that cave where Palpatine is hiding.
On Exegol.
Gotcha. Because you see him walking through what looks like caves. And then you see him walking in front of cloning Bacta tanks that strangely look like Snoke.
Right. Yeah. He
So
walks through a room that's definitely got that for sure.
yeah.
Yes. Agreed.
So it made me feel like he's on the Exegol, that he clearly knows more about what's going on than that he's even letting the other Imperials know.
Right. So we get a shot of a shadow council, and we don't know who everybody is, but two guys in particular are named. One is pulled directly from the Timothy Zahn books, interestingly enough, and the other is a name that I think everybody will recognize, even if you didn't enjoy the sequels.
Hux
We get Commandant Hux, who is leading up the Necromancer Project, which is clearly, as you're saying, clearly got to do with bringing Palpatine. Somehow Palpatine returned. We're finally going to get an explanation of how Palpatine returned, because we didn't get that in Rise of Skywalker. But then for my Timothy Zahn Heir to the Empire book fans, we get Captain Paleon. In the books, Captain Paleon is the fleet. Actually, he's an admiral in the books. He is a fleet admiral of the remaining Imperial fleet and the right-hand man of clearly the overall protagonist for all of this.
And it's funny because Moff Gideon specifically challenges him on this.
Yeah,
where the fuck is Thrawn?
Yeah,
right?
Where
you're here?
Yeah,
and you keep talking about him. But
we know you're Thrawn's bitch. Where is Thrawn?
Where is he?
Yes, and Peleon's like, well, let's just settle down. It's all gonna be a big secret, and no one can know.
Yeah.
So it definitely is. Their Filoni and Favreau are doing what I didn't think was going to be possible. Is they are combining the sequels with the sequel book trilogy that is not canon with the sequel movie trilogy, which is canon. For all of you, by the way, that were hoping that they would find a way to circumvent the sequels or make them not canon, that's not happening. That's
not happening because now
they're reinforcing it through the TV.
Yeah,
show.
They're reinforcing it, and it looks like they're retelling Heir to the Empire in their own way.
Yes.
It looks like the Ahsoka show is going to be a big part of that storyline.
Agreed.
And this is how they link them all, I think, through Gideon.
Agreed.
Right? Moff Gideon is going to be the link between all these different shows.
Yep.
And is going to be the glue that's going to interconnect all of the characters into the new Heir to the Empire.
Right. Literally, probably until Grand Admiral Thrawn physically walks onto a screen and appears and talks.
Yeah.
And then he will be the ultimate big bad. Now, I don't know. Now, recently announced, by the way, Dave Filoni is getting a chance to do a Star Wars film that is essentially going to tie all of these shows in this current era together. I don't know if that film is ultimately going to be a conclusion to all of these shows, or
that is what they made it sound like.
Right. But I mean, it's hard for me to believe, like, so when would that movie be coming out? 10 years? Like, who knows? Like, they've still got shows to come out that are set within this timeline. Having said that, man alive, like so many little disparate threads that they're starting to introduce in these shows. And this one was a banger, man. Having them stand in that circle and talk about what the Empire is really up to was very, very cool. Resources are still there. Ships are still there. They still have people. And now we see at the end of this episode, they got some other pretty cool stuff too that we haven't seen before. But
yeah. So remember when I was saying last week or the week before or whatnot that the show doesn't have any kind of real overarching villain.
Right.
That we're missing a direction. We don't know where we're going.
Right.
There's no imminent threat. They've changed that now. They've changed
There's
that.
There's definitely an imminent threat now.
There's definitely an imminent threat. They name drop Thrawn. Moff Gideon is still around. The Empire is very much still alive. They even throw away a line in there that says, they think that we're just a bunch of warlords. But if they don't believe we're just a bunch of random warlords, they're going to intensify their search and their hunt for us.
They'll turn their eyes to us and find us and obliterate us. Yeah.
So in other words, they're much larger than they're appearing to be, and they're very much still there.
Interesting that we clearly find out that Gideon is former ISB, which makes sense, because you'll notice he doesn't go to the council, and in particular Hux and Paleon, and says, you will send me what I need and make it happen. He has to ask. And then he has to like make a case for it before Pelion and Hux kind of give each other a look and be like, all right, you can have what you need. So clearly he's not in charge. He is boots on the ground. He is the eyes and the ears of whatever's going on here. He's the one that's doing a lot of the machinations, but he's not ultimately in control. Right now, Pelion and Hux are in control in lieu of Grand Admiral Thrawn. So it's an interesting
Although
power
I
dynamic.
think still, I still think that Gideon is the strategic brains behind it. What's going on right now?
He's pulling all the strings. There's no question at all.
I do believe that is going to change.
Right.
Once Thrawn shows up, we're going to really understand that Gideon is just another pawn.
Right.
But we're getting ahead of ourselves because in this episode, the Night Owls finally meet the Children of the Watch.
They sure do. On Navarro at first.
On Navarro.
Yep.
They even asked them, "Are you Death Watch?" And the armor is like, Death Watch doesn't exist anymore. It was fractured into a number of clans,
warring clans. Yeah.
There was also a great throw-out line in there from Bo-Katan that we didn't need the Empire to destroy us. We did that ourselves. Right. The infighting between the clans is what ultimately did us in. If the Empire had simply attacked the Mandalorian people, they never would have been able to win. It was the infighting between the Mandalorian people that made it possible for the Empire to defeat Mandalore.
Yep.
So I really liked that because we had that discussion again.
For sure.
Last week,
and it's a tale as old as time. Of course, absolutely.
Yeah.
Let them weaken themselves before we move in and maybe pull some strings to get them warring amongst themselves. And then we move in and we mop up after they've beaten the hell out of each other. That's Yep.
And then they seem to find common ground somehow.
A bit
through Din.
Which is
so
weird.
Once again, Bo-Katan has the fucking darksaber. And she stands up there and makes her speech, and she's like, "Who's with me?"
And it's crickets.
And
now I
fucking crickets until Din's like, "You know what? I'm gonna go with you," and so's Grogu. And then all of a sudden, everybody's like, "Okay, well then I'll go too." And then
I do want to point out, Din does tell her flat out, "My people," which he means the Children of the Watch, "don't give a fuck about the darksaber."
Yeah.
So she's only got half of them with the darksaber, anyways. The whole rest of the Watch is like, the dark what? We don't give a shit. That's not the way. This is the way type of thing. So, by the way, if we're going to mention Grogu, we have to mention what Grogu is going around in now. So
I don't know that I like that.
Dude.
That's so silly to me, man.
Loved it. So I'm sorry. To me, that's where this show is at its absolute best, is when it has those moments of levity. Not like Marvel movies where you're just constantly getting hit with it, but just every now and then a moment of levity to kind of take you out of the seriousness and remind you this is a fun, galaxy-spanning, swashbuckling adventure show. It's not a deeply political intrigue thriller show. So straight out of almost like Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles with Kang, like they rebuild IG-11 becoming IG-12, but they don't have his logic or cognitive circuits in it. You got to drive it. And initially when it comes in, it's got the little friggin' Babu Frick driving it. And you're thinking and my thought was the same as yours. I'm like, are we going to have a Babu Frick doll throughout this entire sequence, like the rest of the show as well, to go along with our Grogu doll? No. Babu gets out of it and Grogu gets into it.
Like, and mean baby.
No, it has a yes. It has a yes and no button. So now he can communicate. And initially just walking around the office, it's just like, oh, that's cool. And by the way, Grief Karga is like, oh, look at him go, the little dude. It's great. But then when they go out in the street, and he's just hitting yes over and over and over and over again. And every dad on the planet is like, I know this feel. This hurts me in my dad's soul. And Din's just walking beside, and then they hit the vendor, and Grogu's just grabbing shit because now he's got hands. He can reach stuff, which is the only thing stopping him most of the time, just grabbing shit out of people's hands. And now he can get around a little bit better, and I'm assuming he's going to have access to a lot of IG's weapon systems, and like eventually, like,
I mean, it stands to reason that you were getting a Grogu upgrade, right? Like this is Grogu's first armor, right? Because he's not big enough to have an actual armor, so he's inside an IG unit.
Hilarious.
It was the only for me, I thought it was really silly. And yes, it was great to have that funny moment, which I did laugh. Don't get me wrong. It was just a little silly for me up until when Paz Vizsla is fighting with Axe Woves over that chess game, and they start fighting each other. And then Grogu basically grabs them both by the collar, and he's like, no, 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 no. And you could tell that they're like, oh, what the fuck? Yeah, okay, fine.
Fine. This is going to get us out of it. None of the other two clans can interfere with this. It's a battle for honor. And again, I do like the fact that they've clearly shown that it's not just like the two camps of Mandalorians see each other. They're like, we're best friends now, and then they go off on an adventure. It's like, no, we're still not cool. We don't like you, and you don't like us, and let's make sure that we understand. And it does seem like the Night Owls are kind of the dicks on this, like because he was calling them savages and primitives and everything else. He was very dismissive of them. I don't know if he was pushing them specifically to test their mettle to see what kind of warriors they were, but the Night Owls are definitely not coming across as like the good guys in this. You know what I mean?
No, and they never were.
Yeah.
And you know, they see the Watch, the children of the Watch, as, like you said, as savages, as a cult, as zealots, right? They're extremists to them, right? So there's definitely a dynamic there that I hope they're going to explore more, because it does make for some interesting storytelling, especially with what happens when they do go down on the planet.
Right.
First off, they meet Mandos.
Now, are the, for you, because for me, they were just a bunch of Mandos or whatever on the planet in what looks like a pirate ship kind of vibe. But did you recognize any of these?
I didn't recognize any of them.
Okay. So we're making the assumption that they're new. I
don't know.
Okay.
They did seem to make it sound like they're just randos.
Right.
Happen to know
Rando Mandos?
Rando Mandos, you know? That just maybe that should be a quote on a t-shirt.
That's Rando never Mandos. Going away.
You know, one of the first things I said when we saw those creatures on Mandalore was, well, if they were able to survive, does that mean that there are other Mandalorians on the planet that were able to survive?
Right.
Clearly there were, but they're dying, they're suffering, they're ill, they're sick, they don't have any food. Not a good time for Mandalorians on Mandalore when you're living on a glass fucking planet. You can't grow anything. What do you do? Sure, right?
Yeah, and no one knows you're there, so you can't really trade for stuff either. And plus, you don't have anything to trade because your entire planetary economy is in the shitter. I did find it interesting that when they were talking to the Rando Mandos. That's so bad. It's good. That they had said not that they had gone underground to survive. In fact, the one gentleman says any of them that did go underground never came back out and died.
Yeah.
And we still haven't seen anything other than the mythosaur in the living waters. We still haven't seen anything underground that would suggest that there's something bad down there that would be killing them off to the point where these guys would live on the glass side of the planet.
So I think that was the point, is when the Empire attacked Mandalore, that's what the weapons were doing. It turned the surface into glass, but it poisoned the underground.
Okay.
Right? Remember how they're saying, oh, it's toxic, it's poison, right? Like, well, that's what happened. It poisoned all the people that were underground because they had nowhere to go. So all those people are dead, and now that it's all dissipated, all that's left is the glass surface.
Right.
My thing here is I was not aware that Mandos were mostly living underground. Even like watching the Clone Wars and Rebels and
but they're not. That's what I'm saying, right? Like that's what these guys are saying, is they've had to stay above ground because anybody that went below ground after the bombings never came back.
I mean, the Great Forge is underground.
I see.
There's whole underground cities, right? Just as our capital city is underground, right? So, well, was it always underground? What did it sink underground after being attacked? Like
that was my assumption that it sank.
I don't understand,
because when they show the bombing, it's clearly a dome that's above the ground being bombed, and then my assumption is the ground from underneath, and it caved in and it all went. Now, how it all fell and most of it's intact, I don't know, but
I don't know. So,
spoiler alert: they go underground and they find what might have been killing everybody down there. They find a whole fucking Imperial base down there.
Yeah, so Moff Gideon has an actual base on Mandalore with TIE interceptors and stormtroopers in fucking Mando Beskar armors.
Beskar armor. Yeah.
Even
clearly
Moff Gideon.
stormtroopers. Clearly stormtroopers.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. They have the First Order style stormtrooper helmet.
Yes.
But they're all Mando style.
Yes.
Moff Gideon's helmet. We finally see Moff Gideon with his helmet, by the way. We've always seen him with his armor on, but we've never seen him with his helmet on. We see him with his helmet on in this, and it is a Mando helmet.
Yeah.
And it's very reminiscent of, you remember, well, again, you wouldn't know this, but in the Clone Wars, there was a period of time where Darth Maul becomes leader of Mandalore.
With the Darksaber or whatever, right?
With a Darksaber, and there's a clan, and I forget what they're called, and maybe it is a Death Watch, that become acolytes, right? Of, like, they become Darth Maul's clan.
I've heard
and
them
they have
referred
horns.
to as Malorians, is what I keep hearing. Yeah,
right? And they have horns on their helmets, which Moff Gideon clearly had on his helmet.
He did. You'll notice, by the way, so does the armorer.
So does the armorer.
Which is an interesting fan theory that's now going around.
So does the armorer.
Yeah. Anyways, but yeah, so we get Moff Gideon in what he calls a dark trooper suit.
Yeah.
So he finally calls it sort of the melding of the two. The dark trooper robots he tried to make that were not successful because the Jedi just wiped them out without barely blinking. Human stormtroopers in regular stormtrooper armor don't do very well either. So this is like a combination of the two. And
now you've got stormtroopers that can withstand
blaster fire and lightsabers. Yes.
Which is weird because, again, you never hear of that ever again. Like, that's nowhere mentioned in the sequels. Anything about Beskar or Beskar armors.
Well, how this ends ultimately with Paz Vizsla and the fight that he has with the 3 Praetorian guards would suggest that maybe Beskar is not quite as strong as that, even though it's shown.
Yeah, I thought that was very weird that they were able to pierce his Beskar armor with their, whatever they're called. They're not even lightsabers. They're like makeshift light spears. I don't know what you want to call them.
So just to catch you guys up, it's a trap. It's a trap. And they are, first, it's only Din that's separated from the rest of the Mandalorians, and they all just kind of stand around and watch. And Din is disarmed, and Din is taken away for a debriefing. This is by Moff Gideon and all these stormtroopers that are in Beskar Mandalorian style armor. And then they do start to make their escape as they get the door open. But then Paz Vizsla stays behind. In fact, closes the door again so that the rest of the Mandalorians can get out of there, and he sacrifices himself. Now, initially, he's actually doing pretty good against all of these Mandalorian sort of stormtroopers, because that's what stormtroopers are there for. And then 3 Praetorian or Emperor guards walk out in their red robes.
Praetorian guards, as they named them as Praetorian guards.
I did notice, though, that the helmets were different than they've appeared in
They're wearing Mando helmets.
So they come out, and the 3 of them make very short work of Paz Vizsla, and he is unfortunately killed. So I don't think we're going to be seeing any more of Mr. Vizsla there.
I still think it's telling that it took 3 Praetorian guards to take down 1 Mando.
Agreed.
Right? Remember we were having this discussion, well, how could the Mandalorian stand up to the Empire? I mean, you need 3
individual fights, of course. Individual fights.
Bests,
There's a reason why they brought bombers and they bombed that planet back to the Stone Age, because that's the only way you can really fight Mandalorians. Yeah. You can't fight them on the ground because you're just going to get your ass handed to you. So, no, agreed. But yes, it was cool. I don't know that I necessarily found it all that emotional. I wasn't all that attached to the Paz Vizsla character, but they did a really good job of giving him sort of a last stand.
Yeah,
his gun going so much it overheats, and he's just wiping guys out left, right, and center. And
when he pulls out his vibroblade,
and his little shield or whatever. But yeah, those Praetorian guards are just like, hold our beer, and they make very
slack, and and he's unfortunately
done. And then they just pimp away. Then they just literally they slow walk in there, wipe him out in 4 seconds, and then just slow walk out. Like you've always wondered what these guys could do. They certainly look better in this fight than they looked in the fight in Rise of Skywalker. Last Jedi?
No, Last Jedi. Yes,
Last Jedi after Snoke dies.
Yes.
Anyways,
where they just get manhandled by 2 kids that barely any training.
Right?
Anyway. Anyway, yeah, it's funny that it took 3 of them to take out one Mando, but 2 kids were able to take out 6 Praetorian guards.
I
Anyway.
feel like we're saying it took 3 of them to take out one Mando. They took him out. Like I'm fairly certain 2 of them could have done almost as good a job, and one of them might have even stood a chance against him too.
Maybe.
Like, yeah, especially since they came in after he'd already kind of wasted all his ammo and blew up his gun fighting the rest of the stormtroopers. So it's not like they came in fresh and he was just like getting right there. Like he was already kind of out of options when the 3 of those boys walked in, or girls walked in and whooped his ass good. But yeah,
either way, it was neat to see the Praetorian guards come in again. Yes. Another nod at the Emperor still being around.
Yes. So to catch up, Din is captured.
Yeah.
And the armor had already left. She took the wounded and she went back up to the fleet. Which
was about to get attacked by the TIE fighters,
the TIE bombers. And I don't know what bombers. I don't know what good bombers are going to do in space. But
I'm not sure what bombers, the point of bombers would be. But there's TIE. They have a bunch of TIE interceptors.
They definitely have a bunch of TIE interceptors, which still does not seem like it's going to do very well against an Imperial class ship. And
no, you would think they would have some actual TIE fighters, but whatever.
Regardless, they're about to get attacked too. But yeah, right now Din has been separated from everybody. I'm sure that's part of the reason why we've got Grogu in this suit, this IG-12 now. Which is funny that, by the way, when he's hitting the yes and no buttons, it's still Taika Waititi's voice doing the yes and the no. I think that's adorable. And he's even got the little levers to make the.
Well, it's IG's voice, right? So
that's what I mean, which is voiced by Taika Waititi. So I think it's just funny that they've got the yes and the no to be his voice. But no. This episode was
Paz Vizsla's dead.
Paz Vizsla's dead.
Yes. Paz Vizsla's dead. Din's been captured. The armor has flown back to the ship, and then the rest of the landing crew is on the run, right?
Yes. Now, Axe Woves did go off early to go
warn them,
that they're coming. So I don't know if that's going to be.
How's he going to make it to freaking space, right? Like he's got is a fucking jetpack, I guess. Well, yeah, that's all he got because they only came down in the one ship,
which the armor has taken now.
Which the armor has taken to go back. Yes. So how? They were very clear that the magnetic field around the planet is responsible for there being 0 communication down to the planet.
You can't even scan the surface.
Right? So they've got no way to communicate with them in space. So how Axe Woves is going to be able to get to space with his jetpack on, I don't know.
He can't.
Because he can't, especially since we saw that he can't even fly like a couple miles.
I think Bo says if you are below atmosphere or something like that. So I think all he's got to do is just kind of get above wherever the magnetic it is. So if he goes straight up long enough, but he doesn't run out of fuel, he might be able to. The trip down is going to suck, but trip
down's going to really suck. But yeah.
We'll see what happens.
But
this, I mean, come on, man. For only 2 episodes left, this was the second to last. They definitely, I've seen the reports, the ratings are sliding, blah, 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 and everybody getting all up in arms about Jack Black and Lizzo and blah, blah, blah. If this episode didn't get you back involved, kids, I don't know what to tell you because this was a straight up banger of an episode.
Yeah, it was amazing. They did fantastic. I'm a little bit disappointed they killed Paz Vizsla off.
Me too.
Because he was kind of our connection to the old Mandos.
Yep. Agreed.
I mean, he's Clan Vizsla. He's the only person of Clan Vizsla we've ever seen, right? Other than in the cartoons. And now they kill him off.
Now, we do see it. We do know his son is there.
We do know his son is there. On the ship.
Yep. No. He'd be back at. Oh, right. Yeah. He'd be within the fleet. Yeah. Yes. Correct.
He'd be with the fleet on the ship.
Yes.
So yeah, I mean, I don't know what's going to happen there. It was interesting that they would kill him off like that, especially since he's been there since the beginning, right? Since episode 1.
You needed a death, and I get it, man. You had to pick somebody, and he's the only other ones of the Mandalorians that we have any attachment to at this point. So it makes sense that he would be because it was either going to be him or the armor, one or the other.
Well, that's going to be my question. So. Do you think he's actually dead? Or is this going to be one of those things where we find out in the next episode that he's really, 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 really badly injured, but he's still alive?
If it had that first spear thrust in his midriff, yeah, I could see him coming back from that. That one he got from a no. That brother's dead. So because that guy like doesn't just stab him, then he leans on it like there's if he is alive, I call shenanigans if he's alive.
To me, it's clear their only play right now is the mythosaur.
Right. Right. Yes. Which they have to get back to the living waters and all that jazz, because they're still underground. They're still there.
Yeah.
They would have to get on that. I don't know how that would help them in the space battle, but it would certainly help them in the ground war for sure.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely.
So, we'll
so it'll be interesting. I don't know that I have anything else to add other than wow. I mean, for me, this was amazing. Gonna be it for this week. Again, make sure you click that like and subscribe button, folks. It helps us out so much. We never ask for anything, but we do ask every week. Click the like and subscribe because it costs you nothing. Make sure you check in tomorrow. Picard After Show. That is promising to be another banger of a show.
Be spicy.
There's only 2 more episodes of that left, and there is only 2 more episodes of The Mandalorian left too. So,
well, one now. This was
so 1 more. So that's it.
More.
So it looks like they're going to end on the same week. So next week and the week after, no, this week and next week are big.
Yes. Make sure you're tuning in, kids, because we're gonna have some thoughts and feels on this one for sure.
Make sure you stay geeky, everybody. We'll see you next week.